You've given away your trade secrets. You're now irrelevant.
Well, I said the same thing in the speech on Saturday.
Nice.
I said price action's king.
Oh boy, we don't need you anymore, Stafford. We need a replacement.
I think I hear a podcast title.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Welcome to the Money Path Podcasts, episode 123. Price Action is King, with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Pat Trading Partners. Visit pattradingpartners.com for software MotiveWave. Get your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with a casual conversation of news and the markets.
I don't even know what's going on in crude oil. That's how tired I am.
What? Wait. You don't know what's going on in crude oil?
I gave a speech in Boston this weekend. I gave a presentation to a group with including E-Trade and Options Animal and the CME group and the CBOE as sponsors. There was one particular point in time where I talked about one of the things I'm looking at in crude oil now is the sort of unannounced geopolitical problem that's going on, and that is that Saudi Arabia threatened military action against Qatar. Right now, we people already know that Saudi Arabia kind of led a diplomatic cutoff of relations with Qatar, with some other countries like Egypt and the like. But they said that if Qatar continues to try and make a deal with Russia for, I think they're the S-400 missile defense systems that Russia makes. I think I got that name right. They're actually going to strike Qatar. So, and somebody said to me, "What's that? If that can do the price of oil?" And I said, "I don't know. I really don't." Qatar's not a major producer of oil, right? They're one of the countries in that region that are not just kind of dominant in oil. While I'm saying this, I'm going to look up how many barrels they actually produce. But they are in OPEC. And so for one OPEC member to strike another, I could see two things happening. Does the OPEC production cut now fall apart as people in OPEC take sides? Let's see. Crude oil production, they do 651,000 barrels a day. Okay, so they're not huge at all. Yeah, that's right. I'm reading that right. 651,000 barrels a day. So not a huge producer. So does the alliance fall apart and they all say, well, I guess the production cut's over, price is high, let's pump and take advantage of this price as quickly as we can? Or do the strikes actually hit crude oil production targets in order to cripple them economically, cripple each other economically, or at least try to? And does the supply of oil get interrupted and oil goes through the roof? I actually don't know. So being tired from this trip, I'm not going to be a major contributor to this particular podcast because I just haven't been looking at things because I was working on this presentation, this speech and stuff. But crude oil, I think, technically looks pretty weak. Like it looks like it's getting close to a sell of a rally to me, at least in the kind of medium-term charts. It's at our weekly rotation zone, but the rotation zone's flattening out. So I think it's probably a sell or rally situation in crude oil right now. And I think that has a lot to do with, again, the spread itself, how the spread is widening.
Well, we broke that long-term trend line to the downside. We did, because we're now recording this on Sunday instead of Friday, because, Bob, being famous Bob, was on a plane. So I can actually see how the week closed out. We closed in the weekly rotation zone after breaking below it, but at the low end of the weekly rotation zone. And now the daily rotation zone is against us, and we're testing the underside of the 8. So, and we're testing the kiss the trend line goodbye concept. And we're right at the defining point that was broken. anybody who wants to know about defining points and trend lines, check out our YouTube channel on trend lines. Sorry, I had to plug our YouTube channel. But so yes, technically we now have it's potentially sell the rallies on rotations back down.
Yeah, it seems like that. So some of you may not know this. We've said it in the podcast before, but to me, if I form a fundamental opinion and the price action doesn't match it, I will not trade it. I might still have the same fundamental opinion, but no matter what I think is going to happen in the market, if the rest of the market doesn't agree with me, the rest of the market is more powerful than me and will push it wherever they want to push it. So you have to have a price action reason to enter a trade. So saying I don't know what crude oil would do if that particular potential geopolitical flare-up happens, I would just go to price action anyway, even if I thought I knew what was going to happen. So listening to what Mike said about the crude oil is probably the most important part of what I'm just saying here. So the price action is going to dominate either way. And if I don't have a fundamental opinion and I have like a TV spot or something, I'll go to the price action, see what the price action is telling me, and then go, okay, what part of the fundamentals would agree with that price action? And then I pick that part of the fundamentals and talk about it.
Don't give away your trade secrets.
Well, price action's king is all I'm trying to say.
So, we have a follow-up thing.
What do we got?
The Deutsche Bank chair said to talk to holders on a potential Commerzbank deal.
Yeah, I worked at Commerzbank, by the way, back when they were the fourth largest bank in Europe. Or I'm sorry, they were the fourth largest German bank. That'd be interesting. There would never be a situation where those two would merge back when I was there, but it's now, God, it's 18 years ago, 10 years ago, somewhere between 10 and 18 years ago. So there would never be a merger back then. I mean, they were like rivals, like you can't believe. They did not operate like the Japanese, where banks were in consortiums. They were rivals.
Yeah, so that would be interesting. So I get a question. If another company bails out a stock I say is going to zero, I'm taking credit that it's essentially gone to zero because it ceases to exist.
Agreed, 100%.
Because if you need to get bailed out or absorbed by another company to stay in existence, you've essentially gone out of existence.
If I came to you, if that particular merger happened and they got rid of the name Deutsche Bank, even if they didn't, and I came to you and I said, I have some old Deutsche Bank stock certificates. Would you like to buy them? What would be your price?
Zero.
Yeah. So it is officially zero.
So that was just a follow-up because it's been going to zero segment. Did you see the NYSE is going to start trading options on the FANG Plus Index on June 11th?
I did not see that, but can I just throw something out there? Because again, I brought this up in the speech. Pim Fox from Bloomberg, I was listening to him the other day, and he calls it FanMag now. And I actually think that needs to get traction. FanMag is way more accurate. So it's Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. FanMag.
FanMag.
Yeah. Instead of FANG.
It's now just FANG Plus, which means it's anything you want to dump. It's any tech momentum stock.
So is that particular index going to include Apple and Amazon? Is it going to be a AA FANG?
Yeah, that's why they have the plus on there.
And it's silly if they don't include Microsoft in that. If you use FanMag, not the term, but if you take the FanMag stocks, that's almost $4 trillion in market cap. Again, I'm repeating the things I heard from Pim Fox. $4 trillion in market cap, and it's almost 4.5% of the market cap of the entire world. Those 6 stocks.
There you go. By the way,
I can't confirm that. I'm repeating what he said. I didn't do the math. I just thought that was amazing.
By the way, new video popped up on YouTube channel where I did it specifically does Microsoft with how we do going to new all-time highs or all new time highs and how we trade it with the breakouts.
Side story, I had a friend say to me that he has started trading charts finally. He finally believes me that charts work. And so he took a bunch of our courses, and he took some other courses. He wanted to compare some things. He uses trendy trade. He used a couple of things, and he goes, I really believe in charting now. Look at this. There's a hammer on this chart. And he was just starting to use a lot of candlestick terminology. And he said to me this morning, this charting stuff is great. I had a good April, a great May, and a fantastic June. And I immediately went to the S&P 500 chart, the monthly chart. April slightly up, May up even higher, and June up even higher. So I now have to tell him it is very easy to be long-only stocks when the market is going up and have good chart patterns.
What is it?
The reason I bring this up, Mike, is because you know who I'm talking about. And He said to me, he goes, I see this one pattern that always works.
Oh, no.
Exactly. So I right there, I knew off the top of my head, not even from memory, that those three were going to be 3 up months. I knew it.
But isn't it that the old adage, don't mix up a bull market for brains?
Yeah.
or good technical analysis.
Yeah, that's
everything's
it.
Going up.
Yeah, don't mix up a bull market for technical analysis.
Well, the next crypto carnage continues. Bitcoin plunges below 7,000 after Korean exchange hack. So CoinRail got hacked in Korea, a big exchange.
When was it?
That was literally like today and yesterday evening.
Okay.
So this is on Sunday. So this is over the weekend news. CoinRail got hacked. They've managed to freeze all exposed NXPS, NPER, and ATX coins. And they're keeping all other cryptocurrencies in a cold wallet. That's all they've released now. So they've essentially cut off outside access because they don't know how bad the hack is. So they're sort of like putting everything in a safe room. And then Saturday night, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies flash crashed. U.S. Commodity Future Trading Commission sent subpoenas for 4 currency exchanges and an ongoing probe into Bitcoin manipulation that began in late July following the launch of the futures on the CME, according to Wall Street Journal. CME's Bitcoin futures derive their final value from prices on 4 Bitcoin exchanges: Bitstamp, Coinbase, Itbit, and Kraken. And so now they're looking into manipulative trading on those specific exchanges to manipulate the price on those specific exchanges in order to influence the futures. So that's interesting. So a little bad news, for the crypto traders. What's interesting, though, because I've warned a lot of times, we've had, when the 4-hour and daily rotation zones are against us, you can only take the high probability potential bottoming patterns at key levels, and it's otherwise take your hands off of it. And hopefully you had your stops in place and you get out, because when the rotation zones are against you, it can just keep going until it doesn't.
And Bitcoin now down 4 of the last 6 months.
Yeah, and trading right now 67.06. By the way, Coinbase is on track to operate as a regulated broker-dealer. They're buying broker-dealer Keystone Capital, according to Wall Street Journal, so they're going to look to be a regulated broker-dealer. MasterCard also filed a patent for blockchain systems to secure card payments. So the patent was released on June 7th. So the patent application, dubbed, quote, method and system for payment card verification via blockchain, end quote, describes a public blockchain-assisted conveyance and retrieval of payment processes to verify and secure users' information. So in this document, MasterCard noted the vulnerability of existing means of, quote, wireless transmission of payment credentials, claiming they can be subject to intercept. By implementing blockchain, the company aims to enable a secure way of conveying payment credentials that also involves minimum participation by the consumer. So they can sort of keep an end-to-end track on everything, and that's what they're looking to do. And they say this will help maintain a high-level security, particularly against card skimming, where you don't know your card was skimmed. So that's how they're going to use blockchain in their technology. It's not going away.
No, it's not. So this is Summit Week. We have the President Trump and Kim Jong-un summit, which Mike already mentioned that we're recording Sunday afternoon now because I was gone. And we will start getting headlines soon because the summit starts supposedly around 9 p.m. Central, 10 Eastern. So we will wake up to some headlines, and I'm curious what those are. But there's also a Fed meeting this week, an ECB meeting, and then a week from now, not from today, but I think I want to say it's like the 16th or the 18th, an OPEC meeting. So this is start of like this 10 days of summits that are going to matter to the market. So if you don't mind, quickly, I want to talk about the ECB one. The ECB meeting was preceded by 3 specific ECB officials and kind of influencers hinting that the time was right to start removing QE. One of them was Jens Wiedmann from the Bundesbank, the German central bank. Another one was Karl Klaus. And then another one was his last name is Pratt, but I don't remember what his first name is, who's the chief economist for the ECB, and he's on the ECB board. So we could see some really big announcements that are going to affect the euro. Mike always asks me about, is there any international news? That's the only international news that really matters, is all of that going on, because all of a sudden the euro takes off, right? The euro was looking like it was going to go down through 114. And on last check, the euro had rallied back quite a bit and gotten up above 118. It's pulled back a little since then. Yeah, super, super important ECB meeting coming up, even though they're not going to make any sort of move on rates. Now, in terms of the FOMC, again, the probability for a rate hike has dropped a little bit. It was up above 95, and now it's 91.3. But it's still enough, in my opinion, to call it a lock because the meeting is so close. And there's not any sort of Fed massaging. They're in the blackout period now, but there was not any sort of pre-meeting massaging that they might not do anything in June. So because the probability is dropping down, and because guys like Bullard, the Fed president from St. Louis, was talking about how we might already be at a neutral rate. He's not a voting member, but he sits at the table. They might actually have something a little bit more dovish in the statement. That's not a prediction. It's a possibility. They might have a little bit more dovish language coming out. And I've said it all year. I think the Fed's been talking about 3 rate hikes. I think they do 3. This will be number 2. But they're more likely to do only 2 than they are to go up to 4 rate hikes. So anyway, and then obviously Trump summit. I don't know what's going to happen there.
You missed, though, the most important meeting probably of the month happened this last week. The most important presentation.
What's that?
Apple's WWDC conference.
Oh, I thought we were going to be talking about Tesla's call again. Go ahead.
No. I'm fixated on Tesla or something.
No, not at all.
I do have a little tidbit of Tesla news this week, though. But Stafford, what was your takeaway from the Apple WWDC?
Okay, right. So there are 2 things that are good. The new operating system for the phones and the tablets is faster. Okay, that's great, because Apple was getting a lot of flack that they slow down their devices deliberately. So the new operating system for the phones and the tablet is faster. And the second thing is they have finally fixed the Finder for the Mac OS, the Macintosh operating system. The Finder has not had a lot of power in the past for you to change metadata and a number of other features. Finally, the Finder has been fixed. And for 2 hours, that's all you got.
Tell me what the Finder is again.
It helps you find stuff.
It's the little smiley face, the smiley face on the Mac, the Finder.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So now you can actually do fundamental image edits and image work inside the Finder itself without having to offload to a separate program. You can get to metadata, which is all the hidden data on a file. For people who use the Mac in their workflow, that's a big fix. The fix the Finder motif has been going around for a little over a decade. So the fact that's been fixed. And for a 2-hour show, I just told you that in 3 minutes.
That's pretty good.
So the rest of it was just absolutely ridiculous. Like the lady who was on the exercise bike trying to...
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And she was running out of breath, trying to get her kids picked up and order food, and she's like fainting. It was ridiculous. Did you notice all the leather jackets the ladies were wearing and all the jean jackets and the outfits? It was really weird.
Yep. But there was no. I watched it. There was no hardware announced.
In the Steve Jobs days, the WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, usually launched the highest end hardware for developers, like the high end Mac Pros. So
yeah,
we don't expect to see hardware. But one thing that was surprising is they didn't show anybody using Xcode building programs with objects. It's like, this is a developers conference. Can't you please show us doing development, please? So, it was a lot of fluff.
Yeah, it was pretty fluffy. By the way, this came out on Friday. Apple expects to ship 80 million new iPhones this year, down 20% from what it had planned the same time last year. Japanese financial daily Nikkei reported on Friday, citing industry sources. They look like they're going to be ordering 20% fewer components for the 3 new iPhones it plans to launch in the second half of 2018. So they gapped down pretty big on that. This is pretty good charting. This actually, I can just hit my what now. Apple broke out to above the 190.37 mark. We had the next price projection at our 12.5% GAN level, 194.11. We hit 194.20 and then gap back down to the breakout levels.
Wow.
So direct hit with that GAN level now, but we're back in the daily rotation zone. So if this has a nice rotation back up and gets above Friday's highs, it's actually it's more of a trading entry, but it is a trading entry for another rotation higher. So that's what we had with Apple, and then I halved it, my Tesla segment, but it's very quick. There was a report by Recode that cites nearly a quarter of reservations for the Tesla Model 3 have been refunded, citing data compiled by a data firm Second Measure, which analyzed billions of dollars of anonymous credit card and debit card purchases. So they've gone through all these anonymous purchases and looked for, the initial deposits and refunds that have been done on credit cards, and they've come up with about a quarter of the initial reservations have been refunded for the Model 3. Now, not confirmed or denied by Tesla.
Right.
And then we have that accident, from where that guy died in his Model X.
Yep.
Where Tesla came out in their blog, they said the driver had received several visual and one audible hands-on warning earlier in the drive. Well, the NTSB came out this week with their preliminary report. During the 18-minute, 55-second segment, the vehicle provided 2 visual alerts and 1 auditory alert for the driver to place his hands on the steering wheel. These alerts were made more than 15 minutes prior to the crash. During the 67 seconds prior to the crash, the driver's hands were detected on the steering wheel 3 separate occasions for a total of 34 seconds. For the last 6 seconds prior to the crash, the vehicle did not detect the driver's hands on the steering wheels. The interesting thing is, in the last 3 seconds going into the car actually accelerated from 62 to 70.8 miles per hour before it hit the barrier.
Yeah, some people think it was trying to change lanes and it was speeding up.
And so, what Tesla came out and said and the NTSB report contradict each other a fair amount. So
that's the takeaway, right?
Yeah, it's still not looking good for some of the Tesla and Autopilot things, but now Tesla's going to give a free trial of Autopilot to everyone. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. So be careful if you see a Tesla approaching the back of your car rapidly.
Wow.
Just my little takeaway. It's just not. Oh, and by the way, people start picking up Elon's not a flamethrower this weekend.
You cannot resell that flamethrower.
Really?
Right, because you have to register it or something with the Boring Company, so you cannot do a resell of it. So a lot of people bought like a bunch to resell them on eBay, and they found out that the Boring Company won't let you legally resell them.
Holy!
They had to return them.
There's going to be a underground black market for the flamethrower. But Elon was in rare tweet form all weekend, also. So a lot of it's been a very funny weekend of Elon tweeting again. But that's all I have to talk about. It's short and sweet. Short and sweet. Going to zero. Short and sweet.
That's very short and sweet.
So nothing else. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover.
How's the Disney stock doing? Hello. How's the Disney stock doing?
How's Disney stock doing?
Yep.
Disney's actually bounced back very, very hard over the past. This last week, it rallied up from about 99, mid 99s to over 104, essentially.
And this will be my last Disney report. Thank you, Mike.
So it filled a bunch of its gaps it left behind with after the Solo movie came out, it made a few downside gaps, but all those have been filled. Disney, but it's still nothing. I mean, I got to look at my weekly chart it's not a stock I watch all the time. It's held key support, but right now key resistance is going to come in about 106. So we'll have to see if we can get above that again. Other than that, nothing I'm interested in with Disney.
My brain isn't working, guys. I'm so sorry. What do you call when you promote something? Oh, I can promote something.
You can be a shill.
Well, I can tell you guys how I'm doing a special Bloomberg hit on Twitter about the Fed meeting this week.
Hey, Bob, I forgot to ask you something.
Yeah, what do you got?
On the FANG, or whatever you call it now, the FANG. Did you see the news that Europe's looking to fine Google up to $11 billion over abuse of market dominance?
Yeah, I did see
$11
that.
billion? That's
Facebook has the more. So this is one of the things I talked about before, was that Facebook has more trouble with the supposed private information going to China, right? People's private data was going to China through some channel that we don't need to go into. And the reason I repeated Pim Fox's stats earlier in the show is because when you have that much dominance in 6 stocks, those 6 stocks may not be enough to drag the whole market up, but they certainly are enough to drag the market down. So if those start going lower and lower because of things like what, Mike, you just mentioned with Google, and Facebook's problems were to continue to kind of accelerate, and after the China thing, like, you know, some former presidential candidates and politicians said they're deleting their Facebook, and it doesn't matter, they own Instagram. Instagram's still growing, but, you know, it could actually, I'm not predicting it again, but it could actually get kind of wound up.
Oh, well, there you have it. I am fresh out. It's Sunday evening.
As am I. Just want a quick little promotion of something that I do every morning on Twitter. If you go to @CME Active Trader or @Bob_Iacino or @Path Trading Partners, because we all retweet the Active Trader thing, I do something called a Need to Know video that I film with the CME group that gets pushed out there by them on Twitter. And it's about a minute, 30-second video of what's going on for that morning and what you need to look at for that day. And on Wednesday, the Fed meeting, the 13th, they've asked me to do a special one where I talk about that Fed meeting. So if you're interested in my quick take on that Fed meeting, check that out @CMEActiveTrader.com or the retweets on @Bob_Iacino or @Path Trading Partners. And that's it. That's all I got too.
Fantastic.
So as I just mentioned my own name a bunch of times, I am Bob Iacino.
And I'm Mike Arnold, and we'll talk to you again soon.